So there's a movie trailer that has been released by Ben Shapiro called Run, Hide, Fight, Infidels, right? So this is a sequel to one of his earlier movies. I believe it was in 2020 called Run, Hide, Fight. I believe it went to one of the film festivals, but the critics hated it, right? I think it got 30%, really sort of bad movie. And this is what you can expect from you know, a small company like Dailywire, because in the grand scheme of things, they're a small media company. But this is nothing, I mean, Run, Hide, Fight in 2020 was about school shootings, I believe, right? If I can remember correctly. This is not about school shootings. This is essentially an anti-Islam movie brought and paid for by Ben Shapiro, right? Jewish and sort of Zionist Ben Shapiro, who can see public opinion has never been more against Israel and Zionism. I don't want to say Jews, right? Because we don't want to conflate the two. I know it's so popular these days to say such and such, but as a Muslim, these are still, Jews and Christians are still people of the book, right? So I'm not here to, although we have theological disagreement, they are still people of the book. And my religion tells me we disagree with the people of the book, but we do respect them because they are closest to us. So I'm not here to talk about, because frankly, I don't even believe Shapiro subscribes to the Judaism that he really should subscribe to, right? Because if you speak to a lot of the Jews who actually follow the Torah, right, they will tell you that Israel is not something that should even exist as a country. Because they believe their Messiah, which obviously has not come down yet, they believe their Messiah will form the Israeli state. So it's not for some political or Zionist cause to establish an Israeli or a Jewish state, but that is for the Messiah to do. So you'll speak to a lot of the Jews, and they'll tell you this. And I've spoken to them myself. But when we look at Shapiro, he is a Zionist more than he is a Jew, right? From what I can gauge. In fact, he is an Israeli more than he is an American. I don't know why anyone hasn't asked him this yet, but why don't we ask Shapiro? Is it Israel or is it the United States? You can only choose one. We all know what he's going to choose. We all know he's going to choose Israel, right? Because the problem with dual loyalty is that there's always one above the other. And for Mr. Shapiro, of course, Israel is above the United States, right? So he's gauging public opinion. He can see that the Zionist cause, the Israeli cause, has never been less popular than it is today. Never been as less popular. When we see the protests happening, right? We talk about protests just then. Yeah, it's a small protest. 100 people at best. We're seeing hundreds of thousands, 500,000 plus, protesting in the street, not for the Israeli Jews, not because of what happened on October the 7th, but for the Palestinian cause. Because any human being with a heart can see what's gone on in Palestine and is going on still to this day at a lesser extent. And they see that and they say, look, this is despicable. I mean, how could you not describe this as a genocide? And Shapiro hates that. Because Shapiro's whole thing, his whole shtick, he will quite literally fall out with people because of this issue. Megyn Kelly. I don't know if him and Tucker Carlson were really even that close anyway, but even Tucker Carlson, right? Candace Owens, the biggest example. He will fall out with these people because of one issue, because of the country he holds in regard the highest, right? And he holds it in regard higher than anything else. It's the Jewish state, the Israeli state. Because without a state, we're nothing. So, he releases this trailer called Run, Hide, Fight, Infidels because he can gauge public opinion. He is seeing what's happening in Michigan with Abdul El Sayed. He has seen what's happened in New York with Zohran Mamdani. He's seen what's happened across the United States with AOC, with Ilhan Omar, with Rashida Tlaib. And although I disagree with these people quite vehemently, to be honest with you, on a lot of issues, at least they have the brass neck, at least they have the confidence to go against the mainstream and say, look, what we're seeing in Palestine is a genocide, right? And these types of people who would have never, ever been elected years prior are now being elected. Abdul El-Sayed wins his primary in Michigan, Democratic primary, beating Haley Stevens. And it's very likely that he will beat, I believe it's Mike Rogers, the Republican candidate, in November, okay? Even Fishback, who I don't think will win, at least he has some supporters behind him, right? He will very likely do better than the polls are saying right now. I don't think he'll win, but he will definitely do better than the polls are saying. He'll definitely get better than a few percent of the vote, right? So, yeah, the movie trailer, I mean, Run, Hide, Fight, Infidels, essentially what the thing is that they have this, it starts with the voiceover of some sort of Muslim terrorist, and then it shows a visual of this Muslim terrorist who, by the way, looks like, I mean, I've never saw a more Jewish looking guy. When I saw it, before I saw the ISIS flag, I thought, is this about the IDF, the biggest terrorist organization in the world? I'm like, what is Shapiro doing? This is not the movie I thought you'd be making, my friend. You're on my side now. But no. The most Jewish looking guy, the big nose and everything, turns out like he's playing the Muslim. Oh yeah, of course, because you're not going to get a Muslim to play this terrorist for you, are you? So he gets his Jewish friend to play the terrorist, and there's an ISIS flag in the back, and you've got this girl, and you know she's a hostage and all of this, and it's all happening in the US. When has this ever happened? When has ISIS ever has ISIS ever invaded the United States? In fact, when has any terrorist organization ever invaded the United States? With the exception of Al-Qaeda in 2001. Remove that, right? When have there been any other examples of terrorist organizations, Islamic terrorist organizations invading the United States? I'd like an answer, please. Because it's zero. It's quite literally zero. They've never invaded the United States. Have they been adversarial to the United States? Yes. Have they criticized the United States? Yes. Have they killed any Americans in the United States? No. Right? On the other hand, have the US come into these Muslim countries, invaded these Muslim countries, and killed Muslims? Yes. Right? So why are we not making the Run, Hide, Fight, the American version of the American soldiers and the Israeli soldiers going into Palestine, going into Iraq, going into Afghanistan, right? Because if you want to play this game, what values are they trying to bring to these countries? Judeo-Christian values. So is this a religious thing? You want to make it a religious thing? We can make it a religious thing, okay? We want to talk about the atrocities. We want to talk about the Iraq war, the war in Afghanistan, right? We want to talk about Syria. We want to talk about the Holocaust, because whether you like it or not, that was perpetrated by a Christian cause. There's actually a paper you can read by Naveed Sheikh, which is called Body Count, right? Body Count, it's a quantitative paper where it looks at all of the sort of mass genocides and wars and conflicts and political violence. And it looks at all of them, right? And it combines the numbers, the casualty numbers. And Christianity is way at the top. Christianity, 30%, right? They look at 7 different sort of beliefs, right? They're not all religious, because anti-theist, which is anti-religion, is actually at number 2 with 20%. Muslims all the way at the bottom, number 6 of 7. Number 6 of 7. But number 6 of 7, right? And they are at, Islam's at 5%. So we want to talk about terrorism. Why don't we look at the American military, right? It's the truth. It's the truth. So, Run, Hide, Fight, Infidels. I mean, it's not even worth discussing, and I haven't even really discussed it because the movie trailer is just a joke. Jonathan Majors stars in this movie. I swear he was, at least there were allegations brought towards him for assault. You know, and when these actors get cancelled, they have no other choice, but they just subscribe to these awful scripts, awful screenplays, awful movies, right? They don't even get released theatrically because they're so bad. First Citizen Vigilante, aimed for the European, the British audience, and now we've got Run, Hide, Fight, Infidels, and it's going to flop, just as the other one flopped, right? Because these ideas will continue to flop, because they're unpopular, right? Nobody likes these opinions. Just look at media, right? Look at independent media. Shapiro's numbers every day are sinking, right? I look at Josh Hammer, right? Who debated Dave Smith for Turning Point, right? I looked at his numbers the other day. Josh Hammer, who's been doing this a long time, right? Far more than little Sammy over here, 20-year-old Sammy. And the guy can't even get a few hundred views on his podcast. We're at SamiSpeaks getting more views, independent show, than Josh Hammer, who I believe is at least, his show is coming at you from one of the mainstream publications. I can't remember now. But he's not an independent show. He's funded by someone. But this is the reality, right? Is that this narrative is dead because you've killed 70,000 innocent Gazans, right? You've destroyed college campuses. You've killed journalists. You've done it all across the Middle East. And we won't forget this. As much as you may want to appease the boomers with these movies, right? The Gen Z, the Zoomers, have had enough, and we will continue to rebuke this nonsense. And when the movie comes out, I'm sure it'll be an even bigger story. Maybe we'll discuss it further then, inshallah.